The lost city of gold? The Emerald City? The great treasure of One Piece? The fools who go looking for their dream treasure cannot notice what's in front of them. In this era of the sea, the ones who lack real strength are the ones who are killed by their own imaginations. Hello and welcome to One Piece 101, the series that breaks down everyone and everything in the One Piece world. Today, we'll be taking a look at the classic antagonist turned somewhat ally, Bellamy the Hyena. Bellamy first appeared in the series when the Straw Hats visited the island of Jaya following the events of Alabasta. At the time, Bellamy was captain of his own crew, which was rather originally named the Bellamy Pirates, and held a bounty of 55 million berries, which was a fair amount at this point in the series. He was your typical, irredeemable antagonist. He was irrational, violent, arrogant, and sadistic. He was also prone to getting into fights over trivial matters, as well as openly laughing at and mocking the dreams of others. With all of that said, Bellamy wasn't foolish, nor did he believe absolutely in his own power. Bellamy had a role model in Warlord of the Sea Don Quixote Doflamingo, and at some stage after he'd formed his crew, he approached the Warlord offering to serve as part of his forces. Doflamingo granted the Bellamy pirates the use of his symbol, but warned them that defeat would not be tolerated under any circumstances. From there, Bellamy and his crew eventually found themselves on Jaya Island in search of strong individuals to recruit for the new age. During this quest, Bellamy would prove his own strength by defeating the pirate Shoujo, who had a bounty of 36 million berries, as well as the pirate Roshio, who held a bounty of 42 million berries. So Bellamy's brute strength is certainly something to be taken seriously, although on top of that, he also possesses a devil fruit known as the Bane Bane no Mi. This fruit is a paramecia type that gives the user the ability to turn parts of their body into springs, allowing them to jump with great speed, height, and force. Using this fruit, one of Bellamy's primary methods of attack was to disorient enemies with excessive bouncing, before using the very momentum gathered by that bouncing to strike at them with great force. After being informed of Luffy's presence on Jaya, Bellamy tracked him down to a bar in Mocktown. At the time, the Bellamy pirates believed the bounty on his head to still be at 30 million berries. Bellamy then did what Bellamy does best and caused an altercation, loudly mocking the Straw Hats for believing in Sky Islands and proceeding to viciously beat both Luffy and Zoro. Neither Luffy or Zoro fought back and remained pacifists until Nami forcibly dragged them out of the bar. And while Bellamy considered this a victory, in reality, the Straw Hats didn't fight back because there was simply no reason to, which is a very similar reaction to Shanks' initial reaction to Higuma the Bear in the very first chapter of One Piece. But of course this wasn't good enough for Bellamy, who then went to the home of a Straw Hat acquaintance, Mont Blanc Cricket, and attacked him. After severely wounding Cricket and his friends, Bellamy also stole his golden Southbird statue. Upon returning to the bar, Bellamy and his crew discovered the recently updated bounties for both Zoro and Luffy, sitting at 60 million berries and 100 million berries respectively. And while this caused the rest of the bar folk to worry, Bellamy shrugged these off as forgeries, and it was at that moment that Luffy angrily called Bellamy's name from outside the bar. Bellamy stepped out and confronted Luffy, who now had every reason to fight him, and proceeded to commence his signature spring disorientation attack. As Bellamy was powering up his spring strike, he endlessly insulted both Luffy and Cricket. Meanwhile, Luffy simply stood in the center of the town square, completely still. Finally, Bellamy was ready and rocketed towards Luffy, resulting in one of the single greatest punches in the history of storytelling. Luffy struck Bellamy square in the face, sending him straight down onto the ground, knocking him out instantly, as well as leaving the image of his fist embedded in Bellamy's face. Following this, the Bellamy pirates swiftly realized that Luffy's wanted poster was indeed the real deal and fled the scene. Sometime later, Doflamingo himself appeared on Jaya, reminding the Bellamy pirates that he said defeat would not be tolerated. He then used his Devil Fruit abilities to control Sarkis, one of Bellamy's crew members, and forced him to attack Bellamy. And for a very long time, that's where we thought Bellamy's story ended. However, as it turns out, he not only survived this encounter, but he also went on to take his crew up to a Sky Island, the very existence of which was a core reason why he relentlessly mocked the Straw Hats. However, Bellamy would be the only survivor of this trip, and returned to Doflamingo with a stolen golden pillar from the island, thus redeeming himself. The next time we would see Bellamy would be far beyond the time skip during the Dressrosa arc. Along with Luffy, Bellamy had also entered the Corridor Coliseum tournament, although he did not do it to win the Mera Mera no Mi. For Bellamy, his prize for victory would be finally becoming a member of the Don Quixote family, which was now pretty much his sole desire in the world. Bellamy recognized Luffy prior to the commencement of the tournament and stated that he was a changed man, no longer considering there to be any bad blood between them. He also rather importantly stated that he would never laugh at Luffy again. This showed that Bellamy had grown to respect Luffy and his ideals, and from here on out, the two characters saw each other in a new light. Luffy even cheered for Bellamy during his part of the tournament. Speaking of, Bellamy was assigned to Block B, which also notably featured Bartolomeo as well as King Elisabello II. And Bellamy did incredibly well throughout the Battle Royale. However, as with every other competitor save for Bartolomeo, he was swiftly defeated by Elisabello's King Punch. While recuperating from his loss, Bellamy received a letter from Doflamingo directing him to assassinate Luffy in exchange for a permanent officer position in the Don Quixote family. Bellamy was absolutely torn by this order, although he would never actually have the chance to make the decision, as Doflamingo ordered one of his officers, Dellinger, to kill Bellamy due to his lack of confidence in him. Luckily, Bartolomeo came to Bellamy's rescue. However, the ever-stubborn Bellamy then decided to confront Doflamingo directly about his betrayal. Once Luffy and Trafalgar Law had reached Doflamingo, Luffy was forced into a rematch with Bellamy. For most of the fight, Bellamy was under the control of Doflamingo. However, on a whim, Doflamingo decided to release him, knowing full well what Bellamy would choose to do from here on out. Bellamy continued to fight Luffy on his own volition, refusing to abandon his loyalty to Doflamingo, even though he openly recognized that he had been following the wrong man. Realizing that he wasn't going to back down, Luffy proceeded to defeat Bellamy with a single punch yet again. However, before the final blow was struck, Bellamy thanked Luffy for calling him a friend and expressed a certain satisfaction in being defeated by the only man apart from Doflamingo that he has ever respected. From here, Bellamy would remain out of action until the end of the Dressrosa arc. After Doflamingo's defeat, Bellamy was taken to Quiros' house in order to recover along with Luffy. When Bellamy awoke and asked Trafalgar Law why he'd been taken in, Law responded that it was because Luffy considered Bellamy a friend. In the final moments of the arc, Bellamy would witness the formation of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. And while Bellamy didn't want to go so far as to become a subordinate of Luffy, he did end up asking for a piece of Luffy's newly made Vivia card, just in case he ever needed it. Some more fun facts about Bellamy. Bellamy's name comes from real-life pirate Samuel Black Sam Bellamy, whose career as a pirate captain lasted barely a year, although he did manage to capture a whopping 53 ships, which made him the wealthiest pirate in recorded history. In terms of Haki, Bellamy is only confirmed to be a user of armament Haki. Along with his strength, Bellamy's bounty rose between the events of Jaya and Dressrosa to a whopping 195 million berries. And finally, a truly useless fact. When Bellamy was first defeated, Luffy used his right hand. However, on his second time around, Luffy used his left hand. And that about does it for Bellamy the Hyena. He's a really fascinating character who underwent a huge arc from detestable villain, possibly one of the most hated villains in all of One Piece actually, to a quite likable anti-hero and possibly even ally. And while I think for the most part that his arc is complete, it's heavily implied that he will be back in the story at some stage. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, favorite, or subscribe, and please do comment with who, what, or where you'd like to see featured in the next One Piece 101.